I did not pitch myself to anybody, but the publicity was so great on it that people came up to me and they were like, hey, we watched your show and I helped my niece find a venue through the show. And so I thought that was really cool that they've already seen it, and that's a helpful tool for couples.
Thanks for joining us on Louisiana's Playground Podcast, your roadmap to all things Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm Brady Renard here for episode 57 of Louisiana's Playground Podcast. As excited as always to bring you authentic stories and experiences of Southwest Louisiana for all the tools that you need to build your own personal Lake Charles itinerary. As you can tell, I'm flying solo in the interview today. My partner in podcasting, Jillian, is out for this show, but I do have a nice special fill-in for Envy Eats, someone that is my go-to eating partner here at Visit Lake Charles, Miss Catherine Shea Duncan. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, and I'm always happy to fill in.
Before we get to Envy Eats, let's talk about what we've got coming up. It's a reunion of sorts for Say Yes to the Venue. It's this YouTube show that I was able to complete a year ago. It celebrated a full year. The couple has gotten married, so we kind of reflect back on that experience and then some things picked up along the way. It's a fun conversation that you don't want to miss. Before we get to that, you know the drill by now. Would you like to do the honors?
It's time for Envy Eats.
This week, we head to one of the classic diner spots in all of Southwest Louisiana, celebrating their 20th anniversary this month, funny enough. It's Dairy Barn.
It's such a nostalgic place. The atmosphere in there is really cool. I loved their Coca-Cola lampshades and the train running around. It's just one of those like go-to quintessential diner spots.
It's hard for it to bring up anything but like childhood memories, places that you just remember as a kid, like stoked to go to, right? Because, you know, you're getting a burger, you're getting some ice cream at the end. It's just, it's that parlor feel, and it's so much fun. And they do such a good job, which is why when you hear them open for 20 years, there's no surprise. And in fact, it was created by Pierre Malou 20 years ago. And 3 years ago, he sold it. But what's cool is that who he sold it to. He had 4 managers that were all longtime managers there. And he decided to sell all 4 of them to these ladies who are now the co-owners. And so they're keeping that same spirit alive. And that's what keeps this brand keep going. So Dairy Barn and Sulphur is really the same as it's always been. Even despite those changes.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible customer service. The recipes are the same. It's just one of those you have to stop at when you go to Sulphur.
Agree. They don't freeze their meat, so they have never frozen meat. And in fact, kind of they had told me their po' boys have really increased in popularity, which is where we kind of split when it came to our ordering. They cut their condiments fresh every day, so it's no wonder once again why they've become such a staple. Let's start with what you got.
Yeah, so I got the fried shrimp po' boy. It was perfectly toasted French bread. But the star of the show was definitely those huge shrimp. And
the shrimp's almost the size of the bread.
Yeah, it was impressive, and it wasn't coated too much with batter. It was, battered to perfection, just enough to give it that crispy crunch. And then you had just your lettuce, tomatoes, and tartar sauce.
Very simple.
Yeah, simple, and it was delicious.
But what about the side?
I was very excited to order that. I love fried okra. It just reminds me of my mama. It was crunchy, just the right amount of salt, and same as the shrimp, not battered too much that it overpowered the okra. So it was really good.
It's hard for me to put my finger on why I think I love fried okra as much as I do, because I'm the same. I love it, right? It's one of those things that I grew up eating and still love it now. I think the fact of the texture is so good when fried okra's right, because you have the crunchy texture outside, then it's soft, and then the pods inside the okra are also crunchy, so it's such a cool texture to it.
There's really nothing to compare it to.
Right. It's got that slightly sweet flavor, an earthy taste a bit, some almost like a green bean if you've never had fried okra. And it's so flavorful and so good. And I like it as an alternative to French fries when able to, right?
Yes. And just, the fact that it celebrates our Cajun and Creole heritage. You can't go wrong.
I agree. I, meanwhile, went with the double cheeseburger. When you're in an old burger parlor type of diner shop, right? You go with the burger. Thick patty, great flavor. They had a huge, thick slice of American cheese on it. And I have no better way to describe the flavor than the classic diner taste. When I was eating this burger, all I thought about was a little shop. I grew up in a tiny town in North Louisiana, a town called Morningsport. And we had one business in the entire city that served food, and they did these burgers, and those burgers are almost identical to them. And so it kind of really took me back to those Saturday mornings when I'd walk down to Landmark Grocery and get a burger. Their burgers are so similar, which is so nostalgic for me, right? And they have the really classic soft buns, the steamed buns there, large crinkle cut fries. Everything's in unison. It's so cheesy, and it's a thicker cut of meat, so it's meaty and cheesy, and the soft bread all just harmoniously sing together that burger tune that we all know and love.
That was beautiful, Brady.
Thank you. And so it is very good, and it's if you love good classic cheeseburgers, you can't go wrong with what they've got, and they've got all the fixings. I'm really simple. I like pickles, cheese, and ketchup typically with it. Sometimes I'll dip in like some A1 or hot sauce. But I'm really basic when it's cheeseburger because I want the beef to shine. I also got dessert. Eggnog. They called it a malt/float. I assume because it's more on the malty side, but you make it kind of like a float because you're going to pour it in over ice cream like you would a Coke float or root beer float. But it's eggnog. Oh, it was so good. Are you an eggnogger?
I do like it. It was just not a choice that I made that day. However, they did have an entire case of Bluebell ice cream, and I was eyeing that. I did not end up getting anything.
You're strong-willed.
Yes. I just ate too much of that po' boy and the fried okra is really what it was.
Yeah, they really did have a ton of different flavors of ice cream, to fill out that second half of being a diner, right? Like, it's not just the burgers that you got to nail. And they have a really extensive menu, so you really can't go wrong anything that you order, whether it be the po' boy or the burger. So many good options and really convenient just off the interstate there in Sulphur.
Yeah, and they have a drive-through as well.
On Maplewood Drive, you take exit 21, Beglis Parkway in Sulphur to get to it.
So if you're hungry for some nostalgic diner, delicious food, head on over to Dairy Barn in Sulphur.
From a great meal to a great guest, we welcome on a pair of YouTube superstars here from Visit Lake Charles Productions, Eloise and Grant Kelly. If you may remember them from our hit show, Say Yes to the Venue, where we sat and we went through their journey of finding the perfect wedding reception venue right here in Lake Charles. She, of course, works for the Calcasieu Parish School Board, and he works for Bayou Technologies, as discussed in the show. We'll get into a little bit of that more, but we wanted to have them on to talk about a year later, a year of the show, and they hit their wedding date as well. So congratulations to you both, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
So before we get into our conversation, we do want to talk about the important stuff, which is our rapid fire questions that we open every show with. Because as you know, Southwest Louisiana, we're known for our big city amenities and that small town charm. So it really does make for a variety of experiences that you can add to your itinerary when in town, from food to outdoor adventures, national, regional entertainment acts that come to the lake area. So that's where we draw from our rapid fire questions to see how you enjoy your time here in Louisiana's playground. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yes.
Okay. Crawfish or gumbo?
Gumbo.
Crawfish.
A split.
Yep.
That's going to happen. We opposites attract with us, I think.
Of course. Why gumbo?
I'm not a seafood person. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but chicken and sausage gumbo, I mean, I could make that every day, all day, eat it every day, all day.
True that. I feel it. Is there a gumbo season? Is there such thing as gumbo season?
No.
Not in this house.
Love it. Love it. Crawfish. Is it the social aspect?
Yes, I think it's the whole experience of you go to the boil with all your friends or you go with your family, you gather around a table, you get your hands dirty, and you just enjoy some good old seasoned crawfish.
You know, that's the best thing about this game is that there's no losers. Everyone wins because you either get gumbo or crawfish. So.
Right.
Poolside or beachside?
I think beach.
I think I was going to go with beach, too.
You sure you don't want to switch it up? One of you switch to the other?
No, I think we agree on this one.
Okay. What is it about the beach?
More interesting, like, creatures and stuff like that are out there. The landscape is better. Pool is just kind of, there's floaties and strangers. That's about it.
What kind of pools do you go to?
Public pools. I don't have a pool, so.
Oh my God.
You got to be careful of the creatures that are there. All right. And last, concert or comedy show?
Ooh.
That one's hard.
That is hard because those are both of our go-to things. Off the whim, concert.
Yeah, it's concert.
Concert. Just kind of the vibe. Is that ultimately what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, I could absolutely understand that. So.
Watching someone do something that I can't with an instrument is magical.
Touche, because y'all are probably on the same skill level of myself as instrument-wise. I struggle to even play the radio, to be honest with you. All right, let's start at the beginning. For listeners that haven't seen the show yet, can you describe your experience on Say Yes to the Venue, the show that we hosted on YouTube?
I look back on the experience as just a good roadmap to looking for a venue, because we had just gotten engaged and we were kind of figuring out, okay, where do we want to get married? We were looking at places in Lake Charles, and then we signed up, and y'all kind of mapped out these great places that we kind of had thought of or hadn't thought of already, but been to before. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I look back on it as like a helping hand on our journey, and then I look back on it when I watch the videos on.
Have you gone back and checked it out a couple of times?
We've mentioned it to other people,
sure.
And then they pull it up, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to see it. You can watch it later, but I don't want to watch myself again. I was there.
Well, I would say working with Visit Lake Charles, of course, was a breeze. We had the luck to have y'all pretty much pull a list and show us and say, hey, these are your options. Of course, there's more out there, but these are who we've contacted. We can go tour it. Let's go look. And just to see in person what Lake Charles has to offer, it was really nice. It was a great experience, too.
So if you haven't kind of gotten the gist by now, the show essentially was like a venue selection show in the style of if House Hunters and Say Yes to the Dress had a TV show baby, is how I kind of always described it. That when I was the director, videographer, writer, creator, if you will, of this show. So those were my inspirations when creating it. So what initially drew you both to participating in the show and finding kind of a very unique way of finding a venue?
For me, I would say I saw the promotion in Thrive magazine, and immediately when I saw it, I had an idea, which to me I feel like rarely happens. But I had an idea for our tryout video.
The submission video,
yes.
Yeah, which we did. We didn't talk about it in the show, but we had a submission video where people just needed to introduce themselves, and you guys went very creative and did a whole Office-style parody introduction video.
Yeah, so I had that idea and I really wanted to run with it. Whether we got it or not, it was a fun time to do. We brought in our friends. I brought in my videographer friend, so she helped us. And even just doing that part was so much fun. So like I said, whether we got it or not, we had a blast trying out for it.
Yeah, there was definitely a level of buy-in that we saw in the selection process. The fact that you guys went through the whole to create and then write a script for this Office-style parody.
Yes, it was scripted.
So, spoiler alert. So, stop listening if you have not listened to the show yet. I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. After the experience, you guys eventually toured 5 total venues, and you went with Enchanted Elegance in Moss Bluff. What were some of your favorite memories of the venue on wedding day?
Well, I want to start with before wedding day, meeting with Ashley and the ease that she just She is great. She knows what she's doing. She's had so many baby showers, weddings, events there, and she is so laid back. So I'm a type A bride, sorry, but I was like, okay, well, we have to do this, and she was just so go with the flow, very calm, level-headed, and that's really what drew us to her, because she was very confident in her place, and she knew what she had, and she was able to offer everything that we needed.
I know in the show, the tree and the backyard experiences really was the pulling factor, if you will. How did that ultimately look on wedding day?
I will say, to start that off, I didn't realize how much I talked about that tree, and everybody brought that up after the fact, which, I mean, it's a great tree. I still love the tree. So just make sure everybody realizes that me and that tree still have, a good bond. But I liked just the general layout, like the inside, there was a party vibe almost the entire night. And then outside, it was more if you wanted a break, you wanted to go sit down. It was a nice ambiance outside. It was a perfect pair, I think, for a night like that.
Sure. And that was the whole point, is that, we wanted to be able to help walk you through a decision, but then see what went into the decision and all of that. So did it live up to the expectations created during the experience?
Absolutely.
Like I said, I feel like Ashley was like the driving force. Also, I like to bond with people, and I like to learn more about them. And just the way, like, I guess we connected, our personalities connected, and how she introduced the place to us. And like I said, she was very easygoing and ready to help with anything. And I think that also led into the great experience that we had. And then, of course, all of our vendors that were amazing, that also stepped up and was like, hey, we'll do this. It's not really what we do, but like, we'll help you out, So.
And that's what's always nice, to have that flexibility. Speaking of the show, were there any moments or experiences that still stand out to you from that experience?
Grant still roasts me about my dancing.
I think about that weekly.
It was really good. And the fact, look, when I said, hey, go do the dance, and then she just did it, I was like, oh, this is gold. I couldn't believe that you actually went and did it, and the show was the better for it.
As my life, everyone benefits from my embarrassment.
What about you? What moments stuck? You said you're dancing, and then obviously, what other moments kind of stuck out to you or experience from it?
I would say from like a production side, it was really cool to see everything you guys were able to do. I've always been the one like behind the camera and never really in front of it. So like that whole process, it wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be. Like, y'all made it super easy for us, and we just had to be there and be ourselves.
Sure.
And gritty on the floor.
Gritty on the floor. That was actually in the contract. Any local experiences or unique kind of local Southwest Louisiana aesthetics or anything that you guys incorporated into your wedding weekend?
Me and my groomsmen went boxing the morning of the wedding at Mayweather.
Oh, I feel like that. There seems like there's a lot more wrong that could have went than right.
Correct.
Right. It was a perfect day. It's like I had a force field around me. Everything went perfect.
Was there a rule no one is allowed to touch the groom? Was that a rule?
It would have been, but Mayweather, it's just like hitting the bags. You don't hit each other.
Okay. So
I asked. They said no. You have to hit the bag. You can't.
Good. The bag didn't come back at you then.
No.
Okay,
no.
good. Because I know sometimes those bags can get feisty.
Well, I was gonna say that when our family came in, we brought them around and did a bunch of cool Lake Charles things. We brought them to Nina P's because my European family has never eaten gumbo. So we had some good gumbo at Nina P's.
Did they like it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, well, Nina P's is always a great place for gumbo, but introducing something like gumbo is always kind of a, it's not a crazy concept, but it's still foreign for a lot of people.
Correct.
So with that, following that experience of being on the show and doing it and doing the whole wedding process yourself, what advice would you give couples when navigating that process?
My biggest thing, and this is like a 1,000-foot yard view, that's a foot and a yard at the same time.
So it's 3 times?
3 times 1.
Yeah. Okay.
1,000-foot view of just like that you're planning your special day, and that I don't let the small little details get in the way of like that point. Like you're gonna have a great day. It's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be fine. Just work it out. It's gonna be okay.
I would agree with that, even though, like I said, I'm type A and I can now after the fact I can agree with that, but I will say I was not like that. You stress about every little thing for really no reason because you just got to trust your people. You hired those people for a reason.
Absolutely.
And so they do it best.
And with that, making sure the right people are hired and all of that is obviously important to deal with those little things. What resources would you recommend to people when finding all of these things?
I would say, like, when we talked to the brick house, she was so helpful and she was high on our list. But unfortunately for food, we couldn't bring in our own food. But she had a great packet of, here are all the photographers that are local. Here are all the florists that are local. And so just touring venues first to me was more logistical because they know they do this all the time. So they can suggest, oh, you should, we have these people that are in-house, or we're friends with these, they just recommend local people, and they kind of guide you too because they know what they're doing more than just a random couple.
Certainly. And we also have aspects on our website that are a lot of kind of toolbox, if you will, for newlyweds or soon to be newlyweds, hopeful newlyweds. Let me say it that way.
Yes.
For hopeful newlyweds and people looking to get married, that we have a ton of vendors and activities and those types of things and blog posts that hopefully you'll be able to use as a resource if you kind of find yourself in a similar wanting to get married position. Would you encourage people to watch the show to get a taste of what it's like to have a wedding in Lake Charles?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We already have.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're in the age group that a lot of people we know are getting married. All of our friends. Actually, one of my best friends that was in our wedding is getting married next year in Lake Charles, and so he was asking all kinds of questions. And one of the first things I said was like, "Oh, I know a good video series that you could watch about venues and stuff." So, but yeah, I mean, we've already recommended to a handful of people that are getting married.
Is it weird pitching yourself to other people? Hey, you should watch me for a little bit. It might be able to help you.
It feels a little vain at first, for sure.
I did not pitch myself to anybody, but the publicity was so great on it that people came up to me and they were like, hey, we watched your show and I helped my niece find a venue through the show. And so I thought that was really cool that I didn't have to go pitch myself to people, but that they've already seen it. And that's a helpful tool for couples that are looking for venues and places to go.
And that's great news, because that, at the end of the day, was the purpose of the show on our end, is to give people a resource to help their decisions and to show them the different types of venues, which I know we kind of discussed it a bit in the show. Did that surprise you, the different amount of venues that aren't necessarily all offering the same thing?
Yes. I keep thinking of La Bocage, which is South Lake Charles, and how, like, if you're a country gal or guy, that is right up your alley. And you wouldn't think that Lake Charles has that much diversity in their venues, but they really do. And they're able to accommodate for any kind of couple.
What would you say is the biggest advantage of choosing Lake Charles as a wedding destination? What makes it special in your eyes?
I think it all goes into kind of how you started us talking today, of just how we have big city amenities with a small town charm, and that really hits the nail on the head, because you have all of the things that make Louisiana great as a state, all the culture mixed in, but you've got other things that, like you said, there's big music acts coming in, there's comedy shows, there's clubs, there's parks, there's everything that you could possibly want. It's all mashed into this city. So I mean, if you're here, odds are there's something you're gonna like.
That was a great pitch. I got nothing else to say. Mic drop on that.
How was your big day? What was that experience like? Because I know you guys celebrated at Revival Chapel and then ended the night at Enchanted Elegance. What was that day and night like for both of you?
Getting ready went by so fast. So I feel like I don't even remember that part. And then when we got to the chapel, I just remember being super nervous. And then we did a first look. And I just want to say, thank God we did, because as soon as like we saw each other, for me, my nerves just like completely went away. And I was like, okay, well, I can do this now. I think it's like the buildup and
Sure.
the anticipation of it. And then first look, private vows went great. We both bawled like little babies. And then after that, I think my favorite moment from the ceremony was we took a couple of pictures before, and then people were walking up to the chapel. And I was like, oh no, I don't want people to see me. And so like, I didn't even have to say anything. All of the groomsmen surrounded me and like opened their jackets, and we kind of like scooted our way out, and they all protected me in a way. I don't know. It was like a cool moment, and I will never forget that, because it was just like, dang, these guys got me.
That's awesome.
Absolutely nerve-wracking. Emotional in like the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you're apart the whole day. You're with your closest people all day leading up to this moment. And then finally, like Eloise said, we see each other, and then it's all just, it kind of melts away. And we did our private vows, we did all that. And then we all did the processional, and the whole wedding, you're just kind of standing there in like almost a out-of-body experience for me. Because it was just like, I'm seeing all of these people from both of our families that I've never seen in the same room before. And we're about to do this crazy thing, and then all of a sudden it's done, and the rest of the night just is a blur, and you're having fun.
I will say our drive, so there's a 15-minute drive between both venues. Honestly, that drive was amazing. His grandparents bussed us in their minivan. It was great to meet with our getaway car, arrival car. And so we were just like in their minivan. We were going over the Moss Bluff Bridge. It was sunset. It was honestly magical. We were in a minivan, yes, but like it was a great moment.
We rock a minivan now. No, shout out, you know. But so for you, while some people may have looked at that short drive as being kind of a negative, for you guys looked at it as almost needed, especially as a bridegroom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's it. Obviously, that's the whole point, right? You have so many diverse opportunities that for some are positives, for some are not. And that's what's nice about this location. We have so many options there to do it. Do you think there are any hidden gems or must-do activities if a couple is getting married in Lake Charles?
Depending on your jobs, if you can take off kind of earlier than the wedding, like what I did was go around with my European family and like out of towners and kind of showed them what Lake Charles was all about. And like I said, we went to Nina P's, we went to the nail salon. I was still doing things that the bride needed to do, but we were making it kind of more fun. I toured them around. They stayed actually downtown Lake Charles, so I toured them around kind of where their Airbnb was. Just to show them where I'm from.
I will say, just from our experience for the rehearsal dinner, I enjoyed the rehearsal dinner more than I ever thought I would have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just give a tip to not undermine that, and just to be present in that and look forward to that more, because that's, I mean, a traditional, dinner like that. You've got your out-of-towners, your wedding party, and their dates and your close family. And so it's a tight-knit group that they all get to talk and celebrate in more of a private fashion.
That will never be in the same room again.
Ever. Yeah.
So
Unless we die.
Oh, wow. Well, you won't. I mean, you will be in the room.
I mean, maybe. I mean, there will definitely be someone missing in consciousness in that room.
I mean, never say never.
I mean, certainly, bright, happy thoughts with Eloise Kelly. Thank you.
You can cut that out.
Thanks again to Eloise and Grant for joining us here on the show, but thank you most of all for taking time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, leave us a rating or a review, and for this special one, we'll plug where the show is on YouTube. Check it out. Let us know what you think, and maybe there might be a season 2 one day. It helps us grow our audience, though, when you do, and you can further share the unique experiences that Lake Charles, Southwest Louisiana has to offer. please go to visitlakecharles.org/podcast for more episodes, where to eat, events happening this weekend. I'm Brady Renard. Thanks again for coming to play at Louisiana's Playground. C'est chill.